Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. I'm very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. Before I go on, please follow me at Twitter at MoviesTVMad to keep the conversation going. Now, before I talk about today's dceu Daily, and I pretty well knew there's no news today, so I'm going to be talking about Man of Steel and Batman v Superman in a moment. And I'm sure if you've read the title of this video, you know where I'm going. But first of all, I want to talk about tomorrow's dceu Daily. Now, unless something major breaks, tomorrow is Saturday. But it's not just Saturday. It's Batman's 80th anniversary. So I'm committing to the whole of Saturday's dceu Daily to Batman Day and Batman because he's a freaking amazing character. And I'm going to talk to you about my introduction to Batman through the 1960s TV show, my favourite graphic novel, my favourite live-action movie. I may even put, the movies in order of how I've enjoyed them. And to be honest with you, I've never seen a Batman movie that I've totally hated. Some are better than others. And, obviously some have issues and stuff. But, I think they've all got their qualities. And you can kind of pick something from all of them and say, do you know what? That one wasn't so bad. But so tomorrow's Batman Day, and that's what we'll be talking about here on Big Mouth, on tomorrow's dceu Daily. But that's the future. We're here today. This is Friday, and we are talking about Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Mick, why do you keep on talking about those films? It's the dceu Daily. You know me. I love those films. They're two of my favourite films of all time. They're definitely in my top 20, and it's difficult to get in my top 20 when you've got things like JFK and Born on the 4th of July and Falling Down and A Few Good Men and films like that. Anyway, we'll talk about those two films because basically Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are not two films. They're one film. They are. Imagine it, I wish someone at Warner Brothers would have a super duper cut of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, put them together. Imagine in the final scene of Man of Steel when Clark's smiling at Lois, right? And it blacks out. And when it comes back, what have you got? You've got the beautiful lie from, the opening scene from Batman v Superman. It's one film, people. They're not two separate films. That is one story. And what a beautiful story. You see Superman's story, the beginning of Superman, in this world, in Snyder's and Goya's world, right, and Christopher Nolan's world. And then in the Batman v Superman thing, you see where Superman is in that world after saving the world from Zod and what people think of him. It's one story. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman is one story. And, when I've tried to look, I've seen them obviously hundreds of times. I'm obsessed with both the films. I try and watch them back to back. It's a bit difficult because you're talking about 5.5 hours. So it's difficult for me to commit that amount of time. I've never been able to do it. I've attempted to do it, and then after 10 minutes of BVS, someone's called me or I've needed to do something. But I'd love to be able to cut them together because at the end of the day, it's one story, it's one film, and the narrative, it's, people talk about the MCU being interconnected. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman was so interconnected. They're pretty much one film. And it was beautiful. The beginning of Batman v Superman with, after the beautiful lie sequence, which is absolutely fantastic, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne as well. He doesn't say a word in the few scenes you see him in, but his performance is beautiful. The toughness, to protect his son and his wife, and he's about to go and he gets shot. That's what Jeffrey Dean Morgan gives you, his screen presence. But, when you get to that, when you see Bruce Wayne's interpretation of the Battle of Metropolis, it really is a beautiful thing to see it from Bruce's point of view. And not as someone who's kind of fanboying Superman and saying, wow, this guy's a hero. This is someone that's saying, both these guys are fucking dangerous. And this guy who survived, I've got to do something about him. I don't like him because Batman's in a bad place. Batman and Bruce Wayne are in a really bad place in Batman v Superman. He's lost Robin. Who knows what Robin? Let's not go into that. but he's lost Robin. It's very interesting actually because there's lots of theories on who Robin was. There was even one theory saying that actually neither of the Joker didn't kill neither of the Robins, right? And actually, the Joker is actually, Jared Leto's Joker is actually Jason Todd, and he was corrupted and he went insane and he became the Joker, which I don't think's ever been done in the comics. That's interesting, and I would have liked to have seen that develop because how interesting to have someone like Jason Todd, who was once Batman's closest ally, becoming one of his greatest nemesis. They're the kind of villain hero kind of arcs you can't beat. I think the problem is for me, sometimes you need to see things. I think I needed to see the relationship between Jason Todd or Dick Grayson and Batman. I think we needed a Batman origin film before BVS for sure. Or not, maybe not an origin film, because if they were telling an older Batman, just something that sets everything up. Because Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, to me, are the same film. They kind of intertwine with each other. I think the problem is you did need maybe a few films before BVS, but that doesn't take away how beautiful Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are. And as I say, if someone with great editing skills put those two films together and just blacks out at the end of Man of Steel, then comes back at the beginning of BVS, it's just a continuation, and that's why I think both movies are so important. We grow up in an era of the MCU where you're supposed to go to the cinema, have a good time, and then forget about what you're watching. Now, BVS really people talk about the Joker movie, and the Joker movie fucks you up after you see it. It keeps you thinking. It shakes you to your core. It's the way we felt after we used to watch the big movies. If you're kind of around my age, and I'm 46, movies used to leave their imprint. And actually, it doesn't matter if you're talking about E.T. or kind of The Shining. Both films kind of made you think in a way about those kind of narratives. And I suppose the interesting thing is why MOS and why BVS get all this hate is because the audience are not used to it. Films with depth trying to say things. Now, the accusation, of course, on those two films is that those films took themselves far too seriously. Well, coming from an audience who thinks a film should just make you laugh, and a film you should just forget it, and then you should get excited about the next film and forget about the film that you reckon. Because basically, this generation's about saying best movie ever, best movie ever. The next MCU movie, the next Disney film is best movie ever, best movie ever, best movie ever. They say it all the time, and the critics do it as well. How many times do you see an IGN review? Best movie ever, best Marvel movie ever. They're talking about the next one, and for me, it's interesting, isn't it? That's not the same with the DCEU. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are two of the best films I've ever seen. Suicide Squad's not one of the best films I've ever seen, but it kind of makes sense when it comes along in the DCEU. Wonder Woman, though, is one of the best films I've ever seen. Wonder Woman is not just one of the best CBMs, it's one of my favourite films. It's made in such a charming way. And it really does ingratiate you to Diana and Wonder Woman. And you just can't wait to see more of Gal as Wonder Woman. So that is definitely at least one of my favourite CBMs, as Batman v Superman is, as Man of Steel. I think those three films are three of the best. And that says everything. And I obviously put Superman the movie in with those four films, And then I don't want to... Actually, there's a Batman film, and I don't want to mention it because I want to talk about Batman tomorrow, and we will talk about my favourite Batman film and why I love the film so much. But yeah, those four films for sure are, for me, when you think about Superman the movie, when you think about Man of Steel, when you think about Batman v Superman, when you think about Wonder Woman, I don't think you'll find four better superhero movies. But if I were you, I would definitely attempt to watch MOS and BVS back to back. And I think if you had the time to do that, but I'd rather it just be edited together because I just think that would be awesome. What a saga. What an epic saga. 5.5 hours of seeing Batman and Superman and then seeing Superman sacrifice his life. Now, really, we didn't get the continuation we deserved. Really, Justice League and Justice League 2 were the final acts of that story, right? And we never got to see that. This is why we're fighting for the Snyder Cut. We deserve to see the Snyder Cut. Zack Snyder deserves us to watch what he did. The continuation of how he ended Batman v Superman. A beautiful movie. Even the kind of one that Warner Brothers messed around with, the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, is still fine with me. But at the end of the day, we got to see Snyder's ultimate vision of BVS, and we deserve to see Snyder's ultimate vision of Justice League. Because the difference between the Batman v Superman theatrical cut and the Justice League theatrical cut, the BVS theatrical cut is still Snyder's movie. It's still cut in vital, pivotal places. But Justice League isn't his work. It's got some of his work in it, but it's not what he wanted. So the thing is, imagine being able to watch MOS, BVS, and the Snyder Cut as one film. How amazing would that be? I would absolutely love that. And maybe one day we could have a super duper cut. I mean, you know, you talk about the It director is talking about a super duper cut of It and It Chapter 2. You can watch those films together. Now, that's really, really interesting to me. I'd love to see that with Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League. I mean, you'd have to spend a whole day at home, and I mean, who doesn't want to do that? But yeah, I'd love to see those three films together. Let's first see the Snyder Cut. But yes, I will be absolutely up for a Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, super duper cut.